I've trained you to be as honest as any man who ever lived. But if virtue serves to guide our actions with our friends and allies, every sort of trick can be used against our enemies. That's why you were taught never to hunt a lion or a bear without some special advantage. Didn't that kind of lesson teach you cunning and deceit? That the truly contented man is not the possessor of vast riches. The crown of happiness goes to the person who has the skill to gain money fairly, use it honorably, and not mistake gold for a god of power and light. Of the pass guarding the approach. Accordingly they halted a day in the plain, but next day came a messenger informing them that Cyrus had left the pass. Here stood the palace of Cyrus, the king of the country, and through the middle of the city flows a river called the Cydnus, 200 feet broad. Someone may say, "Are you not ashamed to be so taken in like a fool?" Yes, I should be ashamed if it had been an open enemy who had so deceived me. But, to my mind, when friend cheats friend, a deeper stain attaches to the perpetrator than to the victim of deceit. Even if we only gain a psychological advantage, that can mean the difference between victory and defeat. I'm reminded of the words of my father the king, who says that battles are decided more by the morale of the troops than by their bodily strength. Cyrus. I do not see how one who is an enemy of the gods can run fast enough away, nor where he can flee to escape, nor what darkness could cover him, nor how he could find a position strong enough for refuge. For all things and all places are subject to the gods, and the power of the gods extends equally over everything. And moreover, his curiosity and thirst for knowledge were such that he must needs inquire from everyone he met the explanation of this, that, and the other, and his own wits were so lively that he was ever ready with an answer himself for any question put to him, so that talkativeness had become, as it were, his second nature. But today when I think of the treacherous cunning of many men who were crowns, creatures like the king of Assyria, I can only think of how dishonorable it would be to let them remain in power. Why, at any rate, should he think me capable of great conquests, given my limited experience in the field? Early on, you can expect no one to believe in your destiny as much as yourself. And in general, every ordinance made without the consent of those who are to obey it is a violence rather than a law. And is. The first duty is to sacrifice to the gods and pray them to grant you the thought, words, and deeds likely to render your command most pleasing to the gods and bring yourself, your friends, and your city the fullest measure of affection and glory and advantage. Obedience should not be the result of compulsion. We're all going to die, but does that mean we have to be buried alive? A number of friends is of more worth than a flock of sheep, or of goats, or than a herd of oxen. You're a good friend, Apollodorus, but would you rather see me put to death justly or unjustly? 4. If it were suspected that you did not gratefully resent the benefits conferred on you by your parents, No man could believe you would be grateful for any kind actions that others might do you. So violence is not to be expected of those who exercise reason. Such conduct belongs to those who have strength without judgment. Anyone who imprisoned people on the ground of ignorance might fairly be confined himself by those who understood what he did not. And therefore, a man who should neglect to render himself capable of such an employment, and yet pretend to it, ought to be severely punished. But I have always thought that to need nothing is divine, and to need as little as possible is the nearest approach to the divine, and that what is divine is best, and what is nearest to the divine is the next best. Again, if there is prospect of danger on the march, a prudent general can hardly show his wisdom better than by sending out advanced patrols in front of the ordinary exploring parties to reconnoiter every inch of ground. Men of Athens, I have never yet studied medicine, nor sought to find a teacher among our physicians, for I have constantly avoided learning anything from the physicians, and even the appearance of having studied their art. Nevertheless, I ask you to appoint me to the office of a physician, and I will endeavor to learn by experimenting on you. What good have you to offer, or what do you know of pleasure, you who refuse to do anything with a view of either? You don't even wait for the desire for what is pleasant. You stuff yourself with everything before you want it, eating before you are hungry and drinking before you are thirsty. Anger does not look ahead, whereas deliberation is just as concerned with avoiding harm oneself as with inflicting it on the enemy. When they are young, they are feeble in body, and when they get older, they are foolish in mind. They are maintained in their youth in effortless comfort, but past their old age in laborious squalor, disgraced by their past actions and burdened by their present ones, because in their youth they have run through all that was pleasant, and laid up for their old age what is hard to bear. It is better, said Socrates, to change an opinion than to persist in a wrong one. Excess of grief for the dead is madness, for it is an injury to the living, and the dead know it not. Xenophon. Your game is to attack on whichever flank you can best conceal your advance, or, still better, on both flanks simultaneously. And given that my proposal were carried into effect, the only novelty in it is that, just as the individual in acquiring the ownership of a gang of slaves finds himself at once provided with a permanent source of income, so the state, in like fashion, should possess herself of a body of public slaves, to the number, say, of 3 for every Athenian citizen. He should have the craft to appear absent when close at hand, and within striking distance when a long way off. Glaucon, the son of Ariston, had conceived such an ardor to gain the headship of the state that nothing could hinder him, but he must deliver a course of public speeches, though he had not yet reached the age of 20. His friends and relatives tried in vain to stop him making himself ridiculous and being dragged down from the bema. Socrates, who took a kindly interest in the youth for the sake of Charmides the son of Glaucon, and of Plato, alone succeeded in restraining him. But over and beyond all that can be written on the subject, inventiveness is a personal matter. Beyond all formulas, the true general must be able to take in, deceive, decoy, delude his adversary at every turn, as the particular occasion demands. In fact, there is no instrument of war more cunning than chicanery.